Hi everyone, it's Don. I was really excited to read your reflections on the materials that we posted for you last week, the Principles of College Teaching on teaching remotely. As you're all very aware, we have made a transition to remote teaching this semester for the rest of the semester here at K-State. And we thought this was probably a pretty good topic to put out there for some conversation. So we put some materials available for you. It looks like you access those materials, gave us some really cool thoughts about that. And each week I want to spend some time talking a little bit about the surprises that y'all had and some of the questions that you had, so we can stay a little bit connected and you can hear a little bit more what I'm thinking. As always, if you want to talk more, if you have further questions, please reach out to us. I'm available over phone or Zoom or FaceTime or whatever. But let's stay connected and let's do some good stuff this semester. So one of the big surprises that a number of you noted was the distinction between online teaching and remote teaching. This is something I talked about in the webinar that I did, and it's really a thing where we have to get this done. And to be a good online teacher takes dedication. It takes time. It takes intention. There are best practices that go along with this. And I think even at K-State, you have to be certified to do this. There's a training course you actually take to do this. And instead, we just told everyone, hey, this is now your reality. So to help people with that, we actually have been advocating the term remote teaching, not online teaching, to let people know that this is probably not going to be exactly the way you would do it if you had designed your course to be an online teaching course. So we really are managing on optimizing the experiences. We really are advocating getting this thing done, not those best practices. And as one of you had mentioned, your first inclination in that was thinking, well, it's lazy to give that advice. It's not lazy, it's realistic. What we do hope is that people are going to learn a lot of skills, and they're actually going to expand their skill sets and the kind of options they have in their teaching, even when we move back to face-to-face learning. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised by this as well. And then it made some sense to me, and it seems like it made some sense to you and some further thought too. A number of you mentioned that you were surprised with kind of these fundamental revisions to courses, things like exams, where maybe you've canceled some exams, or maybe some of your professors have canceled exams. I've canceled exams in some of my classes. The way that we're doing it right now, with very little time to plan, is different. And what I'm really curious to see is what differences stick. I'm really kind of in one of my classes, and one of you mentioned one of your questions, alternative to exams. In one of my classes, I had traditional exams, and I'm not going to do that this semester. I'm going to have my students write their own exams and then provide an answer key to that exam rather than taking an exam that I would create. Exam security is an issue right now, right? With people trying to lock down browsers and people trying to make sure their students aren't using their notes or aren't using each other or web sources or their textbook. That's going to be really, really hard. And I actually did a Teachers Thriving Remotely video on this just yesterday. Hopefully you're checking those out. The TLC is giving out a lot of videos and a lot of resources for how you can move to remote learning. But I just decided I didn't want to get involved with that. And is that going to change what my students do in their experience? Yes. Is it going to change what they get to demonstrate in terms of learning? Absolutely. There's going to be trade-offs, but with every choice we make in our class, there's going to be a trade-off. And I'm really curious to see how this goes in my class. And maybe in the future, I'll give exams less. Maybe I'll find other ways for students to demonstrate learning. And one of the things that it's a quote that's been attributed to a number of people, including Albert Einstein. The quote, "Never memorize anything you can look up." And I'm wondering if, with society being the way it is right this second during the COVID-19 pandemic, is it more important that they can use the information well than recall that information cold? And that's something that I maybe hadn't considered as much, 3 weeks ago, but now we have the opportunity to think about these as pedagogical questions. So yeah, I think some of these things that were the foundation of our learning may have been those foundations more for tradition because we'd always done it that way, then maybe it was the optimal way to do it. And these are things that we get to consider now as teachers. A number of you were surprised by kind of the issues with copyrights. And this is interesting, right? So one of the big issues is what happens if your students don't have access to textbooks that they paid for. Can you scan and post, chapters in your textbook? And there are real debates going on about the legality of doing that. Thankfully, a lot of textbook authors are providing online links to online versions of their textbooks for free to students who have paid, so that you can use those in your classes to avoid some of this issue. But these are other issues that are popping up. As these situations kind of emerge, we're going to find that there are new issues to try to resolve. Kind of an overarching question that one of you had, and I think it's a good question. It's an important question, is what is the responsibility of instructors to their students right now? And I thought a lot about this in my classes, and I came back to those student learning outcomes that I articulated on my syllabus. And you've heard me say before that I think the syllabus is a contract, and yet I've reissued my syllabus in some of my classes. And that contract has changed as the situation has changed. I don't think this is necessarily unethical because I'm trying to establish the learning outcomes in my class generally, but some things had to change given the emergency we're facing. And I think our responsibility right now is to be fair and kind. Um, be empathetic to your student situations. Be empathetic to the fact that they might be working from home with a family that they were not expecting to be around. They may be scared of getting sick. They may have family members who are getting sick. They may not have the access to resources or access to time that would make their learning easy right now. So I think being kind to them is important, but also being kind to us. I think we have a responsibility as instructors to engage in some self-care. Make sure that you are in a position to teach well. Make sure that you are doing things that you can realistically pull off. You've heard me say before that every assignment that you give is going to come back to you. So just make sure that you're taking care of yourself, I think is one of your responsibilities right now. And I think streamlining and prioritizing, I know you heard me say this in the webinar, but streamlining and prioritizing are very, very important right now. And I think our responsibility is to teach our students what we can realistically teach them and approximate as best we can what we plan to do. And sometimes that approximation is a pretty close approximation. Sometimes it's a pretty distant approximation. That's okay. I think our responsibility right now is to be fair and to be kind. A couple of you asked about difficulty in staying connected to students. Yeah, this is hard. This is why I'm doing videos like this, to try to stay connected to all of you. And I'm hoping that in the future, our class, being small enough, can probably move to some synchronous components. I do imagine some Zoom meetings in our future as we can get together and talk about some of these issues more in real time. But for these last couple of weeks, we did not want to put that burden on students unless we really had to. And I think staying connected is important. So using those Canvas features to see who's logging into your class and who's keeping up with assignments and who's checking in. Offering Zoom office hours is something that I'm doing in some of my classes, and offering the opportunity, like I said, for any of you to contact me to set up a Zoom one-on-one. I would love to do that. But keeping those connections, I think, is important. We're trying to have physical distance right now, not really social distancing. I think our connections are important. And then a couple of you asked kind of the big question that we don't have a great answer to right this second is, what about accommodations? What are we doing in this kind of very rapid change to remote teaching to make sure that our students with disabilities and who need accommodations are being fairly treated and kindly treated? And this is actually the topic for this week that we have for you to kind of peruse. So I'm going to push those questions off till next week and deal with those a little bit more. But I will tell you that, kind of a spoiler alert, we have wonderful people on campus and wonderful offices on campus that can provide guidance to this issue, because this is a very important topic. So those are my comments right now on our surprises and questions for this week. I miss you all. I love the face-to-face classroom experience. I love to talk about and debate these ideas with you, and I wish we were all there together. And hopefully in the future, we can be there a little bit more on Zoom. Please keep giving thoughts and questions. I'll keep giving these videos responses to questions and surprises that y'all have. And I'm really excited to see what you come up with. And I'm super excited to see what you come up with for those final projects. If you have any questions, if you need any guidance, if you just need to chat, please let us know. We are here for you, and we're going to get through this. So we'll see you soon.